So I just took a shower. And I'm just gonna show you here, Abby. Now, this is an aspect in regards to. I mean, it's gonna be really cute, but I also want you all to understand that this is this is the structure of behavior, and what I mean by that is that structure of behavior is Abby making sounds. She loves to be hugged, and she will create sound, all right? And that articulation is emotive and psychological. She's controlling and deliberately making the sound come out, just like we speak, we talk. So there's a deliberate aspect, and it's not a point of going, oh well, what does that mean, right? Like, what is she trying to say? What is she trying to do when she's making those sounds? Or she really likes it, or it makes her, like, she's making, it makes her feel good and all that stuff, right? But it is that point of what she is actually doing is articulating and communicating. So when I'm talking here right now, my words are just rolling and rolling and rolling. They're running into each other. They're contiguous. They don't break up. They're like a diphthong, right? So they're that aspect that continues onwards, like a drawl. So it's just tonal. So of course, when we are talking to our dogs like this all the time, it's just one huge melody, and none of it ever repeats itself unless you're watching a recorded video. So it's always different intonations and melody and all these other kinds of things that make the sound that you're listening to, that they're listening to. Sorry, she's so sad. Hi, Abby. Hi, Abby. Abby. Oh, that's David barking. Okay. So we provide that aspect of articulation, and you see how some dogs will actually kind of make rah 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 noises and all that, right? As in regards to talking, and that is exactly what is that attempt to cogently manifest, right, physiologically controlling the vocal cords to create some type of conversation, because that's why you can hear in those woof woof things, it's drawn out a bit more, it's more tonal as opposed to being sharp and crisp, usually is what people expect. So then it comes to that comprehension that there is an emotional expression that is going on, as well as an attempt to communicate in the same manner as me, as being the parent to the dog, in regards to that interdependency and codependency structures, and again the inherent and intrinsic familial relationship in that parental or parency, parency, parency of care and custody, and that one thing is it is giving the ability for dogs to be able to articulate, cogently process emotions. And so that part for Abby is she's articulating, right? Because how we speak is not psychologically driven, it's emotionally driven. If I don't feel motivated, I'm not going to do a recording or, brush my teeth, right? So that kind of thing happens when it goes on. And at the end of the day, for Abby, she understands that she's articulating. And Lincoln used to do that as well when he was alive. And he would make these sounds, and they were obviously repetitive, from occasion or from occasion to occasion to occasion. So he was having a certain type of articulation, and it's not because he was doing it on purpose, or I taught him or anything like that. It's because he understood that there was a sharper aspect of articulation to language, instead of just that tonal running ocean of sound that has, again, no actual ability to ever be repeated the same way, the same tone, the same context, etc., ever, right? Unless, again, it's recorded. So when we're using simple words, not that, and I'll get back, it'll run back into Abby here, but when we're using simple words with our dogs at a childlike level of comprehension, with simplicity of words, and those words, again, have to be words that are simple to comprehend, that you would, again, teach a 2 or 3 year old child, because there has to be ability to idiomatically contextualize. And that idiomatic contextualization cannot occur unless that dog has a more comprehensive understanding of their self, right? Ego-selfishness and all that other stuff, self-esteem and blah blah blah. And so, because I talk about it in all the other videos, right? So, so the they have to be able to articulate. So when I'm using simple words, single words, and my sentence structures are a point where if I do have to say 2-3 words, which I usually do, so I'm usually speaking two, 3, maybe sometimes even 4-word sentences, sometimes maximum 5, right? Not because of a limitation of the numerical attractiveness of 5, but right, 5 out of 10, 50%, yada yada, right? Because always look, this is what I think of, right? Is the contextualization of everything and how it bridges to everything else. Unless you're not, if you're not looking at the very large model of consciousness, then you won't be able to understand and bridge all the contextualizations together idiomatically, and what references to this and what references to that, which is just basic research to begin with, but being able to do it on a large scale, again, such as consciousness, means being able to bridge all these little things together. Anyhow, so we keep it to preferably no more than 4 words, but again, 5 is the maximum, and it is because there's a comprehension aspect. There is a somewhat of a numerical aspect of it, up to the limitation of 3, and then 4 somewhat becomes redundant, and that aspect of self-awareness and objectification and so forth like that, right? Because basically there's going to be one individual dog in the middle, or predator or animal, and then if they're in a group of 3, for example, usually they run 2 to 3, right? And then they all split up into those 2 or 3 splinter groups, right? And so that, again, we're looking at it's not numerological, it is efficiency, and it is how dogs comprehend math and physics, right? Physics in regards to structural support and all that stuff, walking over bridges, that kind of comprehension, and motion and so forth like that. So we look at the context of keeping it down to sorry, I just want to get this out of the way before I forget the thought too. And David I can hear him barking and just distracting here. Okay, so he stopped now. Okay, so it's a point that keeping the number of words in that sentence makes it easier to use those same sentences all the time. It's not like going to a bag of tricks. It's just a natural learning structure, right? That's how consciousness exists. It learns, our consciousness, it learns from experience and from previous genetic iterations, right? Generational. So it learns from each birthing process, and then we have the mass population where we then have the volume of randomness, which then pinpoints to more key traits to then carry on evolutionally speaking, right? So that's how we hone the skill of consciousness, and then it just starts to, again, take those things that are most popular by randomness, right? Because the survivors who did those things may have all done the similar things, or 40% or whatever, but it becomes strong enough that becomes an anomaly that gets carried over into the next evolutional cycle. But we look at that aspect contextually, again, that large consciousness scale model, where we look at that whole thing that goes across at the same level, right? Because again, generationally speaking, means that each individual of that species in that region, or whatever, as the host species or whatever, each one of them is going to be born at the different time frames, and they're going to procreate or not, or they may have some biological defects and so forth like that, so that may or may not get carried over into the next aspect of it. And so the strength of that experience may not be then furthered into the next evolutional cycle, where everything's happening at once. And so, I'm basically saying, sorry, I'm trying to simplify this. It's kind of like watching a massive snowfall happening with small flakes. It's just so tiny. They're small flakes and they're falling all at once. It seems like it's just a big shower, Like you can't even see through it. And so that's what I want, kind of, conceptualizing, that what is happening, right? So the time is linear, while the aspect of evolutional structure isn't, right? Because again, organic structure, on regards to the evolutional scaling of it, right? The iterations generationally, right? One family after another kind of stuff. It's all happening like a snowflake at the same time. So evolution and consciousness, if we look at this concept even much more defined, is that we're looking at basically consciousness being developed broadly, irrespective of developmental age of the species itself relative to evolution or to its own actual biological existence. So that's happening all at the same time, like the snow shower falling down while time is going across.